Hey everybody, welcome back to my channel. I am here to review You, Me, and My Ex. This is episode 5, Extremely Close. We only got to visit with 3 of our couples, but we got a lot going on with their storylines, so I'm not sure if this is going to be too long, but let's just jump into it, and let's start with Alex and Caroline. It is now Alex's turn to meet Caroline's family. Well, at least her mom, and both of them are very anxious leading up to that visit. Alex, because again, you know, it would be nerve-wracking for anybody, you know, the first time they meet their partner's family. But for Caroline, she's a little apprehensive because she doesn't necessarily have the closest relationship with her mom. She says they're total opposites. Her mom is a self-proclaimed like trophy wife or ex-trophy wife. She says that her mom has a blog called Shelf Life of an Ex-Trophy Wife, I think is what it's called. And that her mom's just like a character straight out of a 1980s soap opera. Like she's just stepped off, you know, Days of Our Lives, General Hospital, All My Children, take your pick. And so she also holds a little resentment towards her mom because Caroline has a sister who I suppose is more like the mom. And so the mom really focused on that daughter, kind of projected all of her hopes and dreams of marriage and children onto Caroline's sister. And Caroline, you know, resents that a little bit, you know, because she just wants to be accepted for who she is. So, you know, not the best relationship, but, you know, she still has one, and she wants her mom to meet Alex. So, you know, of course, Alex calls Steven up, you know, to, you know, just vent about his nerves. And Steven just tells him basically, take a couple deep breaths, relax, have a good time, and let me know how it goes. Anyway, they drive down to the mom's house. She lives a few hours away. And the mom has the total cotillion tea party set up when they arrive. Like a good Southern hostess woman. She's got, you know, the charcuterie, the cheese, the caviar, and bourbon slush. I don't know what that is, but it sounds delicious. Nice and refreshing on a hot Southern day. But, you know, she welcomes them in. She meets Alex and, you know, looks at him and realizes, like, I think I've met you before. Like, didn't you all used to work together? And they confirm, yes. In fact, Caroline used to be his boss. And the mom's like, yeah. And I think her name is Lisa. She says, like, yeah, I thought you looked familiar. And to the camera, she shares that, you know, when she met him, she assumed he was a gay gentleman. Like, you know, most people would, right or wrong. So, you know, the mom's kind of just giving them the side eye a little bit, like, okay, that's interesting, like, all right, you know, it's a little awkward, it's a little uncomfortable. Alex is getting like sweaty pits, and Caroline just like, you know, has no problem just being like, what's wrong, babe? Like, your pit's getting hot and sweaty. And he's just like, yeah, like a little bit, because he's wearing like a sweater. He is not in his normal tracksuit, you know, ensemble. And so he, you know, Caroline says, you know, Mom, he bought that sweater like special for you for this like meeting today. And the mom's like, really? Like, you didn't have to do that. And Alex is like, actually, yeah, otherwise I'd be sitting here in my tracksuit. And the mom's like, what's a tracksuit? Like, she doesn't know what a tracksuit is. And Caroline's like, you know, when you run like, you know, like a sweatsuit kind of workout. And the mom's like, oh, why? Are you like, do you run track all the time? You running around? And he's like, I run from uncomfortable situations. And Caroline's like, he runs from the car to the front door, but that's about it. It's just, he's just like, it's just what's comfortable. So the mom is like, oh, like yoga pants, like women with yoga pants, like wear them all the time, but they don't do yoga. And, you know, Alex is like, exactly, that's exactly what it is. And the mom's not a fan of it. I'm not really a big fan of that either. I mean, yoga pants, I mean, they can be very comfortable, don't get me wrong, but they're very casual. To each his own, you know, whatever. So, you know, Alex is like, you know, I'm just gonna, you know, excuse myself to the men's room, the bathroom, I'll be right back. So this is the moment where the mom gets a chance to sort of corner Caroline and be like, oh, what's going on? Like, I thought he was gay. Like, what is this all about? And Caroline's just like, well, why do you think that? And, you know, the mom's like, because you told me that when I met him the first time. And she's like, well, he's not. Like, we're together. We're in love. You know, haven't you heard of somebody being bisexual? And the mom's like, okay, you know, fine, if that's what it is. I'm just confused. I'm just trying to understand. You know, the same questions, you know, they've been getting all season from everybody. Friends, cousins, parents, sisters. It's, you know, same thing. So when Alex walks back out, he asks like, oh, what did I miss? And Caroline again just is like, she thinks you're gay. And, you know, Alex is like, okay, well, you know, just basically breaks it down for the mom. Like, okay, you know, everybody has a past. You're aware of mine. I used to date a man. But you know, this is where I am today. I'm with your daughter. I love her. Like, I want to be with her. Like, you know, it's pretty much what it is. And the mom, you know, I guess, I don't know, I kind of feel like this might have been a little bit of a setup, because very quickly the mom just sort of warms up to Alex and is just like, okay, you know, she looks over at Caroline and just says, all right, you know, I get it, I understand. And, you know, I want to apologize to you, Caroline, because, you know, I don't think I gave you the best example of like healthy, loving relationships. And the mom's been married a few times, apparently. And Caroline's like, you know what? You don't have to apologize, because if anything, it taught me like what I didn't want and showed me like what true love can be. And it led me to Alex. So, you know, you don't have to apologize. And the mom's like getting tearing up. Alex is tearing up. And Caroline's like, are you both about to cry? Like, I can't, you know, she's very in control of her emotions, and I guess is uncomfortable around people who get emotional. So she's like, I'm leaving. I'm walking out. You guys can cry it out together. Like, let me know when you're done. And she leaves. And Alex very touchingly, I do have to say, I was touched. He's now like crying, and he's telling the mom, like, look, I know I might not be what you envisioned for your daughter. I might not be the guy you want for her, but I love her. Like, your daughter has made me a better person, makes me want to, like, you know, be a better man, and I love her. I will take care of her. Like, she's my girl. Like, she's my woman. Like, there's nothing I wouldn't do for her. And the mom now is crying because, you know, whatever you may say about their relationship, you know, I'm sure all parents just want their child to be loved and taken care of and respected. And he's doing all of that. I mean, who cares what anybody else thinks? Like, they've got something, you know? And so the mom's like, then pretty much you have my blessing. Then that's all I need to hear. You know, they hug it out. You know, Caroline comes back and she tells her daughter, you know, Caroline, like, if you're happy, then I'm happy for you. And she looks at Alex like, you know, as long as you're loving her and respecting her, then you're all right with me. But, you know, just don't ever wear those tracksuits around me. So, I mean, it was all very sweet. And that's what I'm saying. I feel like it was a little bit of a setup. Like, the mom was maybe being a little extra, you know, to give like a good segment, because she really warmed up to him fine and is, you know, fully on board with the relationship. So it was a really nice scene. And I think next week we're going to get the proposal from Alex to Caroline. Can't wait for that. So let's move on. Let's talk about Jerry and Kayla. They kind of had sort of one of the quicker segments of these couples. So remember, Kay wants some alone time with Jerry. So he decides they're going to go to his cabin. He has one of his sons drive Kay up there first, like earlier in the morning, and then he comes by later that evening because he had work he had to do. So I guess in the meantime, she was getting the place ready. Do you guys remember in Clueless, like when Cher has her date coming over and she like puts bread in the oven so it'll smell good, and she, you know, picks out the lighting that'll make her look perfect? Like, that's exactly what Kay's been doing all day. Like, he walks in the door like, hey, I'm here. And she's just like, come upstairs. And he goes up and it's like this dim red lighting. She's like in her robe, you know, all like sitting on the dresser like, hi, like, come on in. Like, she has the night ready and laid out. She's going to pamper her man. So he's just like, oh, wow, like, you look amazing. So she tells him to unravel his clothes, and he's a little confused, like, what? And she's like, you know, like, get undressed. He's a little, not insecure. He's a little, you know, a little shy at first because he got the dad bod, you know. Being on all this medication from his illnesses made him gain weight. But, you know, he takes off his shirt. He lays on the bed. She gives him like a really nice back massage, you know. Then she tells him to go downstairs and sit in the old man rocking chair. And he does. So she can do this little like very, you know, PG sort of striptease. I mean, she doesn't, you know, she kind of takes off the robe and she just has like a little like nightie on, you know, nothing too revealing, and she's kind of just dancing around and he's loving it, you know. Then she takes him upstairs so they can now take like a bubble bath, and, you know, they're in the bubble bath, but, you know, he's trying to like get close, but she's like, no, you know, kind of keep your distance a little bit, she says, because she's not ready to get intimate with him until she knows that there's nothing sexual going on between Jerry and Jessica. But she has not yet like outright asked it. She said that she can tell when a man hasn't had sex in a long time, but she didn't say whether or not she could tell. And I mean, she didn't confirm or deny like what her feeling or sense was, but they're sitting in the bubble bath and they're just having this conversation, you know. Jerry just loves, the treatment he's getting. She's treating him like a king, and, he just says, he feels bad they haven't had time like this, but it's just really chaotic in the house with the kids and Jessica. And Kay's like, yeah, speaking of, like, how long is she gonna be in the house for? Like, how long is she gonna be around? And Jerry says, I don't really know. Like, do you want me to find out? And Kay's like, yeah. Yeah. And Jerry's like, well, if I get treatment like this regularly, like maybe I'll just send her to the cabin. And he's kind of like, and because she like lights up, like, yeah. And he's like, I'm kidding. And Kay's like, why do you have to be kidding? Like, why can't we send her to the cabin? Like, because she's like, she says, to the producers, like in her confessional, she really cares about Jerry. She really wants to be with him. She really wants to try to make this work, but that, Jessica's always just in the way. She's always interrupting. She's always inserting herself. She's basically just cock blocking. Like all the love that like Kay wants to give, like this night, for example, like she can't as long as Jessica's around. Like she won't allow it, So Kay just finally asks him, like, do you think that Jessica's still like in love with you and wants to be with you? And Jerry's like, no, like I don't think so. Like I don't see that. And Kay tells her, well, she's acting like a jealous girlfriend. That's just, the sense I get. So maybe you want to think about it. And he's just like, okay, so like he's trying to like get closer, and then they're like, all right, I think it's time for the cameras to leave. We want some alone time. And so, the cameras leave and shut the door, and that's it for them. Like I said, it was just like a night of, Kay just, pampering her man. I don't know. I mean, I don't know that I see like real chemistry between them. Like I said, I feel like this couple is a bit of a setup, and it's really produced because I mean, he says he wants to be with her, and she says she wants to be with him, but it's just not like I don't really feel it though, But anyway, she's gonna confront them next week. Kay is gonna confront Jerry and Jessica, and find out what's really going on. And I'm kind of here for it because Jessica very passive aggressively just doesn't think she needs to be a part of any conversations, and Kay's like, oh no, you're gonna be a part of this conversation. So we'll get to that next week. I can't wait. But let's move on to our final couple. Jimmy and Lisa, they had like a really long involved segment and a lot happened, but I don't know that anything was ultimately really resolved for them. So anyway, let me just get into it. They get to their sort of upscale trailer park RV campsite for the night. Jimmy says that everybody's on edge. They've been traveling now for 2 days. They've all sort of been on top of each other in this confined space. Wendy's accusing him of being overly flirtatious with his ex Lisa. He disagrees. He's just praying that they can all get through the next 24 hours, which is the last stretch of their drive. They can get to Boca Raton, where Dominic is going to college. They can surprise him, and they can all get their own hotel rooms and go their separate ways and be done with the road trip from hell. So, they build a campfire, and Wendy has the bright idea to like play some campfire games like Truth or Dare because, she says, she kind of wants to get to the bottom of this like flirtation between Jimmy and Lisa. And Jimmy knows that's exactly what this is. He doesn't think it's a good idea. He thinks the game is childish, because he can see where it's going from the jump. So, but they're all game enough, right? So Jack goes first. He picks Truth. Wendy asks him, is it true that it was love at first sight for you and Lisa? And he says yes, that their first date, Lisa actually brought Dominic along, and it just went so well. The date didn't end till midnight, and Jimmy kind of looks at Lisa like, you had my kid out till midnight on a date? And Lisa's like, no, it wasn't midnight. And I don't know if it's the editing, because she immediately gets really irritated for no reason. And she just tells him, like, I have a really short fuse. Like, don't start with me, Jimmy. And he's just like, relax. Like, this is a dumb game anyway. If you want to ask me a question, ask me a question. I'm an open book. Like, we don't have to, like, go through all this, like, pretend play game. Like, what do you want to ask me? So Lisa's like, all right, did you ever love me? Obviously he did. But, and he tells her, like, yes, of course I loved you. Like, I married you. We had a child together, yes, of course. And, but, I'm with Wendy now. You have Jack. We're all like in a better place. And then she asks, well, do you have any regrets? And he says, yes, of course I have regrets. Everybody has regrets, but I wouldn't change anything. Like, I regret that I hurt you, but, we wouldn't maybe be where we are today if we hadn't gone through what we had gone through. And she's kind of just like, she seems like his answers I think are good, and I think they're truthful considering like Wendy and Jack are sitting there, but she's getting annoyed like he's not being truthful, and she's just like, oh, okay, so you mean to tell me that if I gave you a second chance, or had I given you a second chance, like you wouldn't have changed? And he was like, probably not, meaning like he probably would have cheated again. And he tells her like, I probably would have did the same thing. Like, you have to make mistakes to learn. Like, I wouldn't be sort of the man I am today, maybe faithful to Wendy, if I hadn't experienced what I did, as horrible as it was. Like, yeah, I wouldn't change anything. And she's just like, oh, like, really? And he's just like, yeah, really. And she's like, well, because I have regrets. Like, I have guilt, about what happened. And he just looks at her like, okay, well, I forgive you. And that's the line that sets her off. And she's like, fuck you, Jimmy. She like gets up, throws her chair like in the campfire, just like, it's not all about you all the time. Like, I'm talking about me. Like, I went through stuff. Like, I have guilt. Like, you don't understand. And she sort of stomps off like, I'm over it, into the RV. Like, I'm done with this. I'm over it. And everybody's just like, what's going on? Like, what happened? What she shares with us as the viewers in her confessional is that, the letter that he wrote that we read in the first episode, well, after he wrote that letter, because that's when she was starting to sort of date again and dip her toe into the dating pool, and he wrote this letter saying he would never get over her and he loved her and he was sorry, that after he gave her that letter, what nobody knows also is that he proposed to her and asked her to marry him again, and she said no, because she was still extremely hurt and she didn't want to appear weak or foolish, if she were to take her cheating ex-husband back, which is fair, right? But that's the big secret. That's the big reveal. That's her part she plays in the demise of their, divorce. But I mean, they were already divorced. I mean, anyway, but it's like only she knows this. And Jimmy, and now us, the viewers, Jack and Wendy are like clueless, right? She stomps off into the RV. Jack follows her, and Wendy looks at Jimmy like she feels guilt about you cheating on her. Like, yeah, she's confused. Meanwhile, in the RV, Lisa is having like a total meltdown, just like, telling Jack, like, he doesn't understand like what I went through, the guilt I have, the regret I hold. And he's just like, it's okay though. Like, you let it go. Like, it's fine. Like, and now Wendy's like, oh damn, like maybe this was a bad idea. Like, I'm gonna go check on her. And Jimmy's just sitting there like, whatever, she's being dramatic. So Wendy goes in to the RV. By this time, like Lisa's like on the floor just bawling, just like, oh, you don't understand. And Lisa's like, what's wrong? Like, are you okay? Like, what's like, honey, what's going on? And she's just like, you don't understand. Like, Dominic is gonna hate me. And again, confusion, because Wendy's like, what are you talking about? Dominic's gonna hate you. Like, Dominic loves you. He idolizes you. Like, what are you talking about? Because I think what might be going on is that, again, only Lisa is aware of like this reproposal, and if Jimmy's even aware that this is what she's like internalizing, nobody else knows what's going on. And so I think for Lisa, for Jimmy to say like he would have cheated again, or everything would have happened the same way, like, is it a denial of his reproposal? Is it a denial that, is it all built up in her head? Because she thinks like, if it weren't for Wendy, they could have gotten back together and they could have worked it out and they'd be in a better place. But Jimmy's point is like, maybe not. Like, maybe if Wendy hadn't happened and you had remarried me, like, we probably would have got divorced later. Like, it just wasn't meant to be. We were too young. Like, I don't know that it's like wise to like look back at it this way, like this sort of regret, because I mean, Wendy and Jimmy have a son now who's a brother to Dominic. Like, that he wouldn't exist if they weren't together. Do you know what I mean? Like, does that make sense? Like, she really needs to let this go. I think it's all within her. But again, this is why the show is so strange to me, and why I think it's not a good idea to sort of like be so enmeshed with your exes, especially if you're not really over it. Because I don't think, for Lisa being so over it, she's not over it. Like, she hasn't dealt with it. Like, maybe she really needs to have a real conversation with Jimmy, or maybe she needs to go to therapy, but it's over. This is done. Like, it's only on you to like work through the feelings, because you and Jimmy, as far as marriage goes, it's a wrap. It's done. and everybody's confused. Nobody really knows what she's talking about, you know? And that's kind of where it ends. And we wake up the next day, they're kind of cleaning up, and she's fine. She's just like, oh, you know, I kind of just, she tells the camera that this is basically 19 years of built up regret, guilt, hurt, anger, and it all just kind of like unleashed itself that night. But, you know, she just had to get it out. So, you know, those of you watching, like, don't keep it in, just let it out. I'm like, so everything's fine now? Like, so, and I mean, Jimmy's kind of giving her a hard time, like, so did you cry it out? Are you over it? Are you done with your like hysterics? And she's just like, oh yeah, you know, I had a moment. I'm just like, yeah, a moment, sure, okay. And Jimmy's, I mean, Jack's probably like, no, she's probably not done yet. And she probably isn't, because I just don't think it's, I don't even know if this is making sense to you guys. Because like I said, the show rarely makes sense to me. You know, but they're all just like, okay, you know, on to Boca. Like, they all take a picture in front of the RV. And I'm just like, what the fuck is going on? Like, was this all, did she drum all this? I mean, she was very emotional. She was hysterical. She was crying. She was basically like a puddle on the floor in the RV, just a wreck. Because of, you know, what Dominic's gonna do when he finds out. Well, I mean, he's gonna find out when he watches the show, but is he gonna blame her that his parents didn't like stay together because she turned down the second proposal? Like, no, like that's where you were at the time. You were still hurt. You weren't over it, you know? And here we are now. Like, yeah, maybe Jimmy meant that proposal then, but that was 19 years ago. We're in a different, better place. Like, I don't know, you guys. I don't know. I don't know what else to say. They all just kind of like pack it up and on to Boca. Like, it's a strange show. I'll never stop saying it. But that was it. I hope this segment made sense. I mean, I think I'm a little all over the place, but I don't know what to say. Like, I don't know how to help. I can't help. You let me know what you guys think. Rate, comment, subscribe. Thank you for always tuning in, and I will see you guys next week. Bye.